All right, Immanuel Kant. This is now getting steeper, right? I know a lot of you were complaining about that. You're like, oh, we missed the poetry and the delicacies that I offered you in the beginning. Now we're climbing. So let's take a poll. This is a new author, so let's see how many of you suffered and how many of you enjoyed. So 10, you enjoyed it. 1, you suffered from the depths of hell. Any tens for Kant? Okay. 9, 8. Turn on your faces. Trauma, Islam, Hussein, Ali. Where are your faces? We're waiting for you to join the class. I'm gonna wait. Ah, even worse, Islam. Hussein, thank you. Ali, Hussein, thank you. And trauma not working. Okay, thank you guys. All right, where was I? 10, 9, 8. 8. Oh my. Oh, Nieves. That an 8? Okay. Alper, sort of. Okay. 7, 6. Oh, very guess. Thank you. 5. We're getting into the sinking now. 4. Oh, Rivera. Nieves. 3, 2, 1. Williams. 0. Nieves is just raising her hand each time. Okay, let's start with the haters. Williams, you're up.
I just I didn't understand anything that was going on in the story.
First of
And
all, did you listen to my introductory lecture?
I didn't get the chance to
Ah,
actually.
that's why. You see what happens? I'm going to take you as an example, Williams. You see what happens when you don't listen to the introductory lecture? The time you spend reading is wasted. How many of you listened to my introductory lecture? Don't lie, it's okay. You can tell the truth. I want to get an idea. Whoa, I'm going to start like giving quizzes. That's what I should do, little quizzes on the introductory lecture. Okay, you guys need to listen to those. First of all, I took the time to make them. So you need to listen to them. And also, it's really not advisable to enter the readings without this lecture, right? Because then you'll be like Williams. Thank you, Williams, for illustrating beautifully what it's like to read without listening to the lecture. So please, to be honest, listen to the lecture so I don't have to give you quizzes about it. It's really a drag for me to like police this. So great. Thank you, Williams. Okay, another hater. This better be good. I think Nieves was desperate to raise her hand each time. So Nieves, tell me what happened. Seems to be a crisis going on with you.
I just didn't raise my hand the first time. I was just trying to get my cat away from me.
Oh, okay. So it was nothing to do with us. Okay, great. Who else was a hater? Who else wants to express their hatred? Now is the moment. Get it all out before we start so you can be empty. Rivera, you want to talk?
Um, I mean, I guess I just don't like the style of it. Instead of me just actually reading to understand, I kind of felt like I was being academically punished.
Yeah.
So I was just like, wow, this is a little intense for me. I gotta reread this a couple times.
Okay, quick question. Did you listen to the introductory lecture?
I did,
Okay.
but when I was trying to interpret it, I'm like, wait, hold on. I had to listen to the introduction after and read it, but yeah, I just don't like the style.
Okay, yes, nobody likes the style. I think I mentioned in the introductory lecture how, did I mention this? How I assigned it and then I regretted assigning it? Did you? Because I was like, oh my God, this is boring as hell. What am I going to do with this? Right? So it takes a little perseverance. You have to see the whole thing, right? The whole picture before you really see the contributions. So hopefully you'll get something out of the lecture. Um, Good, good. Okay, any lovers for Kant? Any lovers? I saw there was, who was it? There was Alper who was sort of, and then there was was it Hussein? Was that you who were in the lovers? Can't remember. Alper, you want to get us started?
Um, I liked it, but I wait, get us started like on my opinion on it.
Yes.
Okay, yeah. Oh no, so I couldn't understand it really well, but I enjoyed the way it made me think that what he was saying was wrong, even though I didn't really understand it. If that makes
Okay,
sense.
so he triggered you, so that was a good experience for you. Okay, good. That's good. Yes, and by the way, remember, right? I don't require you to understand these texts, right? I just require you to experience them, right? So if you're reading and it's like, oh, you don't understand anything, it feels very dry, don't concentrate. Just read, enjoy, and see what it's like to be in Kant's company, right? And just experience it, right? This is really the text I'm assigning is just for you to experience. Then together in class, we'll understand them. So you don't need to push yourself to understand, right, Rivera? Right? You don't need to do that at all. Just experience, right? So good. All right, let's get started. Let's see what we can get out of it. So let me review a little bit what I said in the introductory lecture, which is important framework for you to see what's going on. Kant is here working against traditional morality, modern morality, right? So we have a modern morality is the type of morality we have during the 18th century, which is where Kant is, right? And it's the main proponent, right? The main representative of modern morality is Hobbes, right? So I summarized a little bit what Hobbes believed and how Kant moves away from that perspective into what he's doing here. So basically the moderns, right, believed that human beings were naturally evil. And so they were like, and Hobbes has this expression in his book where he says, man is a wolf for man, right? I'll put it in the chat. Man is a wolf for man, right? So that's kind of like the way they saw human nature as being essentially bad, essentially corrupt. And so one way to work with this nature was to kind of seduce it into becoming moral, right? So what the idea was is let us convince humanity that it is to their interest to be moral, and then perhaps they will more spontaneously become, right? Try to cultivate moral tendencies within them. Actually, they have no moral tendencies. Try to cultivate moral behavior, right? So the idea, so Hobbes, the argument he puts forth is that a world without morality is a world of chaos. Everyone is afraid. Everyone is, everyone's life is threatened. And so let us all become moral so that we can be happier, right? If everyone has a certain amount of moral restraint, they're not out to kill you, they're not going to take your wife and your possessions and your children, right? You can relax, you can enjoy your life, you can work together. It's a better life overall. So the argument here that the moderns would use to convince this savage humanity to become moral was, if you're moral, you'll be happier. Therefore, try to cultivate moral behavior, right? So Kant, of course, is not going to agree with this. Main reason is that for him, this is kind of just a varnish. Cultivating moral behavior without deeply shifting moral inside of you, right? Without really changing into a moral person is not really the objective, right? In other words, in the Hobbes universe, the wolves remain wolves, but they're acting like sheep, right? So it's a wolf is opening the door for you, giving you some flowers, being polite, not stealing from you, still a wolf, right? So Kant is saying he disagrees, right? So he disagrees on several levels. First of all, so make sure you write this down, right? First of all, Kant disagrees with Hobbes with regards to human nature. For Kant, human nature, right, is also good, is both good and bad. Right? We have, in other words, whereas Hobbes says human nature is entirely bad, right? We're entirely savage. Kant says, no, we're both good and bad. We have a good part and a bad part. And so the good part he calls reason, and the bad part he calls instinct. I'm being a little bit, it's a little bit of a caricature, but right? In other words, part of us is only interested in us, our own happiness. That's instinct, right? And part of us is interested in the good. That's the moral part of us, which is guided by reason, right? So we're kind of hybrid beings. Part of us is very selfish. Part of us is very entitled. We want what we want. We want our own happiness. We don't give a damn about anybody else. But there is a part of us also which is wanting something higher, which is interested in the good, which is more altruistic. And so we're a mixture, right? And so for Kant, ultimately, morality can be natural, right? Part of us is naturally inclined towards the good. Not all of us. Part of us is naturally inclined towards just our happiness, but part of us is naturally inclined toward what Kant calls the moral good, right? So make sure you distinguish between the moral good and happiness. Two different things, right? The two key concepts that you're going to need to understand this text, right? Happiness is just me wanting my own happiness, is the selfish part of me is wanting happiness. Moral good, or just the good, is the unselfish part of me, which is longing for something more, something higher than just my own happiness, right? And so that's in essence, if you understand these four concepts, right? Reason, instinct, the good, and happiness, you have the concepts you need to navigate today's text, okay? So now let's get into our text. Sorry, I forgot the book, so let me go get it really quick, just a second. Okay, so turn with me to page 7. No, sorry. Yeah. Actually, turn with me to page 8. Okay. So in this particular book, right, just the goal of this book is really, Kant is not going to tell us what to do, right? He's not going to give us a list of moral principles. Why? Because for Kant, morality is in it, right? Let me write this in the chat. This is an important concept. Morality is natural. We all know deep down what is right and what is wrong, right? I mean, all of you can relate to this, right? You're doing something wrong. You know you're doing something wrong, right? Even though there's that voice saying, you shouldn't do it, you still do it, right? So you know, most of us know deep down in terms of what is right and wrong. Now, we don't know sometimes what is the wise thing to do, right? That's where we get confused. Like, should I date this person? Should I pick this career, right? Should I eat this or that? So this is choices that have to do with happiness, right? Moral choices. Should I kill this person? Should I cheat on my wife? Everyone knows. There's no confusion, right? There's only confusion when it comes to what's for my happiness. Should I cheat on my wife? Would I be happier, right? This is a happiness consideration. But when it comes to morality, it's very clear. Everybody equally knows, right? All of us, no matter what culture, what background, if you walk down the street and you see someone kill someone else, this is, you're gonna feel like, no, this can't be happening, right? No matter if you're like a woman or a man, an old person, young person, if you're from the jungle or from the polar, right, Arctic, you're gonna react the same way. So that's what Kant is saying. Deep down, we have a moral compass, right? Which we are able to access through our reason, right? So let me write this down. So deep down, we have a moral compass, which we're able to access, right, through our reason. So there's part of us, right, which is able to connect to this moral compass, and this is reason. So reason is that voice in your head, which is connected to your moral compass, which is always going to be telling you, don't do this, do this, but it's you, right? So Kant here in this book is not going to give you a list of do's and don'ts. All he's doing in this book is trying to make you more aware, more sensitive to the voice of reason. Why? Because in most of us, the voice of instinct, the voice which is interested in my own happiness, is so loud, has become so obnoxious that we can barely hear the voice of reason, right? So when we're dealing with some choice, immediately instinct kicks in, is like, I shouldn't do this because this is going to make me unhappy, or I should do this, right? And very often even though we all have the voice of reason, instinct has taken over. And so he wrote this book to help us distinguish between the two and to become more sensitive to the voice of reason, so that we can begin to make choices based on morality also, and not just based on our own happiness. Okay, I'll give you examples of this as we go further today, so you can really pinpoint what does it mean to decide from instinct, what does it mean to decide from reason. Okay, so let's read a little bit what Kant is saying here. In essence, this whole first chapter is Kant showing us that we were made for more than happiness. That's all he's doing, right? He's arguing here against Hobbes for the fact that we are a dual nature, that part of us, yes, is instinctive, wanting just happiness, but he's also arguing that part of us is higher, right? This is the whole purpose, that we have also reason and not just instinct. So let's read a little bit what he says here on page 8. Go to third paragraph. In the natural constitution. Raise your hand if you're there. Put your hand in the screen if you're there. Okay. All right. Before I read this, quick summary of what he's about to say. Basically, his argument is like this, to prove that we're not just wolves, right? This whole chapter is there to prove that morality is in it. We're not just wolves, right? This is the argument. I'll summarize and then we'll read it. Argument is this. He says, if we were made just for happiness, then we should have been created just with instinct, because instinct is very good at figuring out what's happy for me and unhappy for me. But he says the fact that we're created with reason, and that this reason very often pushes against our happiness, shows me, he says, that we were made for something higher than happiness. Okay, I'm going to put this in the chat, this argument, right? So, how did I say? If we were made just for happiness, right, then we would have been created, right, just with instinct, right? The voice in us, which is always thinking, oh, what's the thing I should do to be more happy, right? But, he says, the fact that we also have reason, and especially the fact that reason very often goes against our happiness. I'll give you an example in a bit. Often goes against our happiness. This proves that we were made for more than happiness. Okay, so it's a mouthful, right? Does everyone understand this? Put your hand in the screen if you understand what he's saying here. Okay, good. So we're all on the same page. Great. So that's his argument, right? So he's simply trying to prove that we are made for more than happiness, and the reason is that we have an organ within us which clearly is not about happiness at all. Okay, that's what he says here. So I'm reading now. Third paragraph, page 8. In the natural constitution of an organized being, i.e., one suitably adapted to the purpose of life, let us take as a principle that in such a being no organ is to be found for any end unless it be the most fit and the best adapted for that end. So he's saying here, we're organized beings, every organ has a purpose. There is no organ which doesn't have a purpose, right? So you see where he's going. Now, he says, if that being's preservation, welfare, or in a word, its happiness, were the real end of nature. So he's saying, if happiness was the goal for us, right? In the case of a being having reason, if happiness was the goal and yet we have reason, then nature would have hit upon a very poor arrangement, right? In other words, in having reason carry out this purpose. So if we were made for happiness, then, and we're made with reason, then it's a terrible arrangement because reason always going to go against happiness. Let me give you an example right now. Okay, let me think of the right example. Gosh, because I always give the wrong example when I do this. Okay, suppose you have a super tough exam on the next day, right? And all of a sudden, and you have to study, and this is the last moment you have to study. All of a sudden, your roommate barges in and says, "Oh, there's a party, and we should go. And there's this guy you've been kind of, thinking about. He's going to be there, or she's going to be there, right? You should come." Now, tell me, what is your instinct going to say at that moment? You put in the chat. Okay, Malone, very good. Go, let's go. Not thinking, right? Instinct doesn't even think. Instinct just goes, right? Now, what is reason going to say at that moment? Stay home and study, right? Now, is reason working for your happiness? No. Right? Clearly, there's something, right, in us, a voice in us, which is systematically dismantling, or often, right, dismantling our plans for happiness, right? So this is what he means, right? There's part of us which is always ready to party and have fun, but there's always another part which is always pulling us back, right? we're going to find out later today that the part that wants you to stay home is also instinct. Why? Why is it that the part of you that says stay home and study is actually not reason, it's instinct? What is it? What is that voice? Exactly, Nieves. You'll be happy if you pass the test. So instinct is not just instant gratification. It can also plan, right? But the goal is always happiness. So let's imagine, so now I tricked you, right? Let's imagine the following scenario where reason actually intervenes, right? So you're studying for your test and your friend is like, let's go to this party, blah, blah, blah. And you're like, no, I have to study. I have to stay and study. And then your friend is saying, don't worry, you can cheat off of me tomorrow. Now what does instinct say? Your instinct is like, no, oh, why, Malone? Good point, good point. Tell me why. Tell us why. That's good. I'm tricking you again, I see.
I guess it's something deep inside that I know right from wrong. So I would think cheating is wrong, and I couldn't see myself doing it.
But is that your instinct or your reason telling you that?
You tell me.
Okay, so Kant, right? If you're thinking in terms of right and wrong, that's reason. Even though it feels like you say instinctive, reason can be very deeply intuitive, right? So reason is that voice within you. It's not something up here, right? Let me be very clear. Reason is not like you thinking. Reason is like a voice or a feeling, right? No, this is wrong, right? So that's instinct. Now, there is a way, sorry, that's reason. Now, there is a way that instinct could be telling you the same thing. What would instinct be thinking at that moment? Nieves, go ahead.
I would not be happy if I got caught cheating.
Yes, you see how instinct can kick in and still, help you do the right thing, but for a different reason, right? But it's still instinct. So it depends on your motivation. Are you thinking about right and wrong? If you are, that's reason. Are you still thinking about your happiness? Even if it's delayed happiness, that's still instinct. Are you seeing more clearly what reason sounds like and what instinct sounds like? Put your hand in the screen. If you're seeing more clearly, right? This should give you a good example. Okay, we'll go deeper, right? We don't know yet we shouldn't be clear yet about how reason is functioning, because we'll know that next time. But right now we know for sure there's instinct, there's reason, and instinct is thinking only about happiness, right? So let's continue. Good. We'll get into the context of love in just a second, right? Okay, so let me just summarize a little bit, right? Here's another scenario. This is a fun one that I like to do. So suppose, just to help you see even more clearly reason and instinct, right? Okay, you're at a club with your friends, and all of a sudden, your guy, whatever, your girl comes in, the most beautiful being you've ever seen, right? Now, you've been having a secret crush on that being for a long time. And it turns out they come in alone into the club. Okay, your friends go like this and tell you, by the way, he or she just broke up with their boyfriend or girlfriend, right? Now, your instinct is telling you something. Your reason is telling you something else. Tell me, what would be some of the things you would do? I'm curious. And then we're going to analyze as a class whether it's instinct or whether it's reason dictating you. Okay, Malone, instinct says pounce. Okay, great. Now's your time, your chance, right? Okay. What else? What else would some of you do? Would some of you not pounce? And tell me why. I'm curious. Who wouldn't go up and try your luck? Is there anybody who would miss this opportunity? Okay, Williams, talk to us. Tell us.
My reason would probably be she might decline me, or she probably just he's not probably just not ready for another relationship or someone new.
Okay, great. So now let's analyze what Williams just said, right? Williams won't go up because she's worried she'll be rejected, or maybe the other person's not ready. Is instinct or reason dictating what Williams is about to do? You can put in the chat or, okay, Nieves, Alpha, reason. Okay, we have a conflict. We have a conflict. Okay, let's start with, everybody's saying reason. All right, Vargas, tell us, why do you think she's thinking with her reason?
She's thinking about pros and cons. Like she's just not thinking about herself, but she's also thinking about what the comeback would be. You know, she's thinking about what would be the reaction if she goes. So.
Okay, so but then one of you disagrees, right? So this is Nieves. Why did you say instinct, Nieves?
Mostly just because you wouldn't be happy if you got rejected.
Exactly. So instinct can actually be pretty smart and looking at the pros and cons and thinking towards the future, but still the motivation is still happiness. Am I making sense to the three of you who messed up here? Alper, Vargas, Rivera? Right? This is instinct can be pretty deliberative, right? Instinct can still be thinking things through, right? It's not just a gut feeling for Kant, right? Notice how he's understanding it. It's a little different from the way we think about it. Instinct is the part of you thinking about happiness, and that part can be pretty smart. Let's look at the pros and cons. Let me think in the future. Is it going to be beneficial in the future? So instinct is dictating here. But are you seeing this, Alper? Are you good? Did you see how that works? Rivera? No, sorry. Yeah, Rivera, you getting this? Sort of. Okay, tell me what's wrong, Rivera. Tell me what you're not getting.
I'm still trying to understand the difference. I think it's reason, but now I know it's instinct, so I'm just trying to figure out how to separate them.
It's very simple. Instinct is only thinking about your happiness, and it can be pretty smart about it. And reason is only thinking about what is the right thing to do. When William says, I don't want to get up there because I'm going to be rejected, is she thinking about right and wrong, or is she thinking about her own happiness? What do you think, Rivera?
Her own happiness.
That's the idea, right? That's the idea. Okay, let's see. Who else would go up and why, or wouldn't go up and why? Let me think. Is there anybody else? Okay, Hossein, go ahead.
Okay, well, I would go up because basically, I wouldn't say easy target, but she just got over what you said, a breakup. So it would, she'd probably be looking for a rebound or something like that, just go shoot. I would just shoot my shot. Just go shoot my shot. So.
Okay, is Hossein thinking with instinct or with reason?
That's I believe I would say that's instinct.
Okay, you're
right.
right.
She's probably looking for, like, she's sentimental at the moment. She's probably looking for someone to, like, be rebounding to get her ex out of her mind. You know what I'm saying? So
exactly. So you're thinking about everybody's happiness.
Exactly. There you go. Exactly.
So by the way, notice something in what Hossein says. Even thinking about the other person's happiness is instinct, right? If you're thinking about happiness, whether it's your happiness or the other person's happiness, you're still thinking about instinct, because very often, right, another person's happiness might be immoral. Imagine you have a bunch of friends and they tell you, hey, let's go rob this bank. Right? And you're like, I don't want to rob this bank, but I want to make you happy, so let's go. Are you doing something moral, even though you're making them happy? Are you seeing how making someone happy doesn't mean you're doing the moral thing? We're going to talk about this next time, especially, right? So thank you, Hossein. Even making someone happy and being selfless, right? Doing something, well, he wants to do it, but imagine he didn't, right? It still doesn't mean it's moral, right? Okay, great. Anybody else gets up or doesn't get up who wants to give us a different scenario of why you would get up or not get up to see the person? Okay, good. Are you seeing more clearly the difference between instinct and reason? Should be a little clearer now, hopefully, right? Okay, so basically, right, the idea here is that you are really following, I mean, if you choose to follow reason. Actually, what would reason tell you? I haven't seen anyone get up with rational. Well, nobody has yet made a rational decision in the class, right? Guided by reason. What would that look like? By the way, it could go either way. You could get up or you could stay and still be thinking in terms of reason. Give me a scenario with reason this time. So okay, Williams, go ahead.
Would it be reasonable if you went up to her to comfort her because it's morally good to do that instead of trying to approach from another perspective?
Exactly, right? You go up and this time you're thinking, what's the right thing to do that I should do, right? And you're thinking, okay, I'm not going to think about dating this person, but I can be at least friendly. offer help. Of course, it might degenerate, right? You always have the danger when you're trying to help, right? That it degenerates. But the intention is pure. So in that sense, right, you're not even thinking of your happiness. You are thinking of their happiness, but also of the right thing to do in that situation, which, by the way, we're not yet completely clear on what is the right thing, right? We'll get there. Hossein, you want to add something? Your hand is up.
Wouldn't that just end up making the person like stuck in the friend zone or something? That would just keep the man in the friend zone, then they would probably just stay there. Because then they're just gonna seem like the comforting type. They'll never try to do anything, but in their heart they probably want to do something.
Okay. Hossein, your instinct is very strong. That's good. You're gonna be happy. No, but you know what? Anyone who has a strong instinct, honestly, you'll be happier. That's what Kant would say, right? So that's again a reasoning, of course, right? Oh, I don't want to be stuck in the friend zone. Oh, this is gonna mess up, my future. So again, you're not thinking of the right or wrong. You're thinking, this is so good instinct, Jose. Nice, strong instinct. Nice work. Remember, I want to be clear, right? For Kant, neither is right and wrong, right? Okay, I'm trying to get back to my screen. Here we go.
But yeah, I'm still single.
He's not saying instinct is bad, right? He's just saying we have more than instinct, right? Instinct is actually very good in order to make wise choices like Hossein is doing, right? Hossein is smart. Hossein is thinking long term. He's thinking, I like this person. I don't want to be stuck in the friend zone. Let me not do this, right? So that's actually very smart, thinking, long-term thinking. So instinct's actually very valuable, right? We want to have instinct. Otherwise, we're going to do stupid stuff all day long, right? But what Kant is saying is that sometimes there is, sometimes we need to be careful to not let our quest for happiness impede on, right, what is right or wrong, which we're going to find out more about it next time, right? Great. Okay. So I think you're seeing more clearly. Well, you'll see even more clearly next time when we really talk about reason. Right now, we're mostly talking about instinct. But the idea here, the main idea we need to remember is simply this, right? Morality is within us. We know when we're about to do something stupid, right? I think all of us in the class, if you went up in order to just, if you were thinking of going up, thinking nothing about the other person, what's going to happen, right? Only thinking, oh, I'm pouncing, right? Deep down, most of us would feel a little bit ambiguous, right? There would be a tiny voice being like, really? Even Hossein, right, Hossein? Hossein. Yes or no? You're nodding. Okay, yes, right? Even if you're pouncing. Who said they were pouncing? I forgot. There was someone, it was funny. Looking up in the chat. Oh, Malone, right, Malone? You're pouncing, but deep down there's a little voice saying, correct, Malone? Hopefully?
Probably.
Probably. Okay, good. So that's the idea, right? So basically that's what Kant means here by duty, by the way, right? Well, if you saw that word and you were thinking, ew, right? Kant is sounding like, like he's just, kind of imprisoned in this duty. Duty is simply duty to your higher self. It's not duty to something outside of yourself. When he talks about duty, it's not in the military sense where, oh, I'm doing my duty, I'm obeying my superiors. There's no superior for Kant except your own higher self. So really Kant in a way is saying something very liberating. He's saying, we have no higher voice than our own voice. Nothing in the world must be higher than our own higher self. The only authority we should follow for Kant is not scripture, it's not human laws, right? It's your own higher self. And that in a way is a very powerful idea, right? Kant in a way, let me ask you this question. Would Kant be for or against civil disobedience? What do you think, right? There's something, you're an activist, right? You're trying to fight for something in society. You're about to break the law. What would Kant say? Would he be for or against you breaking the law in the name of an ideal or, the right to vote or the right to live? Okay, let me look in the chat, see if you guys are okay for it. For. Anybody think he would be against it? Let me take a look. For, okay, so most of you, consensus, right? Absolutely. Kant would be for civil disobedience. There is no human law for Kant that can supersede the voice of your conscience. That's what reason is, right? Let me make it even clearer, right? Reason is simply the voice of your conscience, right? So for Kant, there should be no higher authority than that. Your only duty is to that voice. So even Kant would be quite, I mean, he should be read, I think, by the future of our military, right? Even if you're in the military, and, you know, of course, you're trained, you know, to do certain things. But if there is one moment where you feel this is immoral, what I'm about to do, for Kant, you should disobey that chain of command and follow your conscience, right? And there's been many cases in the military where soldiers actually have hesitated before doing certain things. And perhaps the reason, I would argue, that so many soldiers come back with PTSD, where they struggle, right, with what happened in the war zone, is because there was this voice of conscience, right, which was in a way pressed down, right? You have to, right? In the military, you can't listen to any authority except the chain of command. And this in a way is damaging, psychologically damaging, morally, Kant would argue, in the sense that you are constantly repressing the voice of your reason, and so this is traumatizing, right? There must be a way, honestly, to fight wars without breaking that voice of reason. I know that there was a tradition in the Israeli army to teach the soldiers. There was a tradition of giving space within the Israeli army for moral consciousness. I know this was very interesting. This is one of the unique, I think, military training in that sense, right? Where the soldiers were given the space for moral deliberation if they needed to. You don't have this usually. And this is one of the issues, I think, with the military in the way that we are raising our soldiers. I think there's an alternative, honestly, but the way we're doing it so far is you have to numb your reason. You have to numb the voice of your conscience so you can just be a killing machine, right? And this is damaging more to us than to the people we're fighting, I believe, right? This is damaging more to our soldiers than to the soldiers who are taking a hit. I think this is what, and I think Kant is right when he argues this, right? That we should have, as human beings, no higher authority than our own highest self, and to constantly numb it can be profoundly damaging psychologically. Are you following me? Put your hand if you're with me. See, the problem with these Zoom classes is that I can't see your faces. I don't know if you're understanding a word of what I'm saying. I have to constantly check back to see if you're, and I can't tell, you have tiny faces and tiny squares. Okay, now let's look at love. This is the goal of the class, right? Two kinds of love. I'm on page 12, last paragraph. So he talks here of pathological and practical love. All right, let me explain a little bit. Pathological doesn't mean sick, right? It's from the Greek pathos, which means passive. So this, in other words, you have passive and active love. That's how I would translate it, right? Passive love is pathological love, right? And active love is what he calls practical love, right? From the Greek word praxis, which means action, right? Okay, now you learned Greek. Everybody clear on my Greek? Pathos means passive, praxis means active, passive love, active love. All right, so two kinds of love. I'm going to read what he says, and you're going to tell me which love stems from instinct, which love stems from reason, okay? I'm reading last paragraph of page 12. Are you there? Put your hand in the screen. Okay. Undoubtedly, in this way also are to be understood those passages of scripture which command us to love our neighbor and even our enemy. So he's here talking about love when we are commanded to love, which is very hard, right? It's not normal. It's not, it's not natural. Page 12, last paragraph. For love as an inclination cannot be commanded, right? If we think of love as just a feeling, you can't tell it what to do like the scriptures are doing, right? So he's aiming to say that love is more than a feeling, right? So he says, love as an inclination cannot be commanded, but beneficence, which is another word for love, right? Love, from duty, when no inclination impels us, and even when a natural, unconquerable aversion opposes such beneficence, is practical and not pathological love. So there's two kinds of love. Love which stems from natural feeling. I want to do this, I want to do that, I want to love this person. And love which stems from duty. I don't want to do it, but I'm going to love you, I'm going to do these things for you. You see the two types, right? And he says one is practical, one is pathological. One love resides in the will, the other resides in feeling, right? Now, which love is coming from instinct? Which love is coming from reason? What do you think? You can put it in the chat. So let me ask the question like this, it'll be easier to answer. Pathological love, instinct or reason? Put your answer in the chat. Or you can just say it. So pathological love, instinct or reason? What do you think? You can raise your hand or... Okay, reason, Islam, instinct, Rivera. Okay, we have still debate. Okay, let me ask, okay, reason, Williams. All right, let me ask Islam, why you say pathological love is, so this is, so let me be clear. Pathological love, let me clarify again, right? Let me put in the chat. Pathological love stems from feeling, right? You naturally want to love the person, right? Or do nice things to them, right? This is pathological love, right? It's passive, right? In other words, you don't do anything. It's naturally, it's already spontaneous, right? Now, practical love, it stems from duty. It's a bit forced, right? You don't want to do it, but you do anyways, right? Okay, that's the difference. All right, pathological, instinct or reason. Now I'm seeing instinct. I'm seeing instinct from Rivera. Islam, do you still think reason, Williams? Go ahead, Islam. Go ahead, Williams.
I was and now I'm sort of changing my mind, but when I first heard like passive, I was thinking of like how we talked about Rumi and what he said with love will come to you if you're still. So then I sort of thought that was more so reason, because like you're letting it happen naturally. But now that like active is talking about duty and stuff, I feel like active love is more so reason.
Yes, very good. And Kant wouldn't get along with Rumi at all. Different, totally different. Very good. Who was it? Williams, you still think it's reason? Where are you, Williams?
Oh no, now that you explain it, yeah, but I had the same thing as Islam.
Okay, excellent, right? So you're right? So absolutely. So pathological love is instinct, coming from, you just love the person because it feels good. You do things for them because it feels good. So you're really all about happiness, right? You're nice to them. Why? Because it makes you happy, right? You love them because it makes you happy. You take care of them because their presence in your life makes you happy. So it's all pathological love is really guided by instinct. Practical love, which is like, I'm gonna love you because it's the right thing to do. Even though I don't feel like being here right now, I'm gonna stick it out. This is reason. You love because the right thing to do, right? I'll give you an example of this, right? So suppose you're married 20 years, right? Hey, marriage is okay, it's not bad, but then all of a sudden one day at work comes in, who? Your soulmate. It must be your soulmate, because the powerful feelings you're feeling right now that you never felt with her or him, clearly this is your soulmate, and now you're in a pickle, you're in a dilemma. All right, what does instinct tell you to do? It's your soulmate, guys. What's your instinct tell you to do?
Can you repeat the question one more time?
Yes, you're married 20 years, it's going well, it's okay. One day at the office comes in your soulmate. The feeling you're feeling right now is like overwhelming, and you're like, this is my soulmate. And now you have two voices in your head, right? What is instinct telling you? Okay, here we are. Get a divorce. Yes, leave the marriage and unite with the soulmate. Islam now, reason is kicking in. Do I have kids? Right? Instinct, dump the zero, get with the hero. Okay, you guys are good at this. You're great instincts. This is a great instinctive class. Great. Okay, yes. What does reason tell you? Islam is already on the track. Islam's reason is already crying out. Islam is like, what about the kids, right? What else would reason tell you? You made a commitment. You have to, right? You have to stick with it. What else would reason tell you? Reason sounds so boring, right? So tedious. Have a talk with, okay. Some of you are like, already trying to figure things out. Have a talk with my spouse. Maybe we can work it out, right? I made a promise. Don't leave the husband. Okay. But reason does sound super tedious. Now, here's the million-dollar question. Which love is freer, right? Pathological love or practical love? Which one do you think is freer? This should be interesting. Okay, Nieves, pathological. Who else? Pathological, okay, Islam. What else? Anybody think a practical love is freer? Curious. Everybody thinks pathological. Okay, let's do a poll. How many of you think pathological love is freer? Put your hand in the screen. Okay, how many of you think practical love is freer? Put your hand in the screen. Nobody? Class of instincts. Actually, guys, practical love is freer. Why? Tell me. Try to think outside your head, because clearly nobody's there. Oh, Vargas, you said practical love. Why? All right, so tell us. Why do you think practical love is freer?
When you say free, what do you mean by that? Because
you can decide.
I think practical love, because in a way, if I had to decide, I don't know, if I found myself in a position where if I had loved someone else, but I would still stay with my husband because there was a reason I loved him. And I think, I don't know, I'm being very reasonable right now. I would actually fall in love with him again if there was something left in him.
Okay, so you listen to Vargas. She says, oh, maybe I can fall in love with him again. Maybe I do have good reasons to love him. Is she talking from reason or instinct? Let's see if we can catch Vargas. What do you think? Yes, Nieves. Vargas is still reasoning from instinct. Oh, I can still make this work. We can still be happy. There's a reason I love him. He can make me happy. So you're still this instinct dictating to you, right? But you haven't yet completely answered why practical love is actually freer than pathological love. Nieves, do you have an answer?
Maybe because in practical love, you don't have to figure out what's gonna make you the happiest. And in practical, you just figure it out.
You're on the right track. What do you mean? How is not having to figure that out make you free? Tell us.
Because I don't know, like figure out what makes you happiest. You're trying to go through all these scenarios, try to think long term and short term. And doing the right thing is just doing the right thing, I guess.
I like that. I mean, it's not quite the answer of Kant, but yes, that's an interesting answer, actually, Nieves. It's like, freeing, not to have to worry about, how can I make myself happy? You get into this big, excellent, but not yet his answer. Let's see. Malone, you were trying to answer that too. You want to give it a try? Malone,
As I'm looking at it, though, I'm guessing I'm still working from. Oh, can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
I guess it would still be more. I'm confused. I just figured your conscience wouldn't suffer, but that might be instinct.
That's happiness still, right? You're still thinking, I won't suffer so much then, okay, but it's still your instinct telling you this. You see how instinct is so powerful? Are you guys seeing this? How instinct basically making all your decisions right now? All right? It's a good thing we're reading this book. Okay, we still haven't gotten an answer. Nobody else wants to try about how practical love is freer? Must I tell you? Okay, I will. Very good. Practical love is freer because you're the one making the decision. Whereas pathological love, you can't help it. Look at this, right? You were doing good with your family, soulmate walks in. You fall in love. Now you have these powerful feelings, overwhelming. You're not in control, right? You're drawn so powerfully to this person, you're not in control. You just can't help yourself. You didn't choose this, right? It just happened, right? That's pathological love, right? Practical love, however, is you choosing. I choose, in other words, you choose without allowing yourself to be enslaved by your feelings, right? You're choosing, you're the boss of your feelings, and not the feelings are the boss of you. That's the idea here, right? You're master over yourself, right? Over your feelings, rather than your feelings or the situation, right? Being a master over you. And in that sense, right, you're freer when you act or when you love with practical love. Are you seeing this? Everybody sees, put your hand on the screen if you're seeing, right? That's the paradox. So yes, I mean, it's funny how practical love sounds boring, but actually it's the one it's the most freeing love, right? This is the love where you're really the master of your situation. You're master of your circumstances. You're master over yourself, and you reign supreme, right? I choose here, not you, not this person out there, not my feelings. I'm the one making the decisions around here, and I choose, right, to do the right thing. I choose to, right, obey my higher self. I'm obeying myself rather than falling prey to the circumstances around me. Instead of being swayed by whatever comes across, right, whatever crosses my path, I'm going to go here, I'm going to go there. I remain, right, centered, master of my situation. In that sense, right, says Kant, practical love is the most freeing, right? So that should help you, those who think it's a bit boring, at least you have freedom, right, which is the highest virtue for Kant. Any questions on this section? Okay, so next time, we're going to go deeper into the voice of reason, right? We haven't yet figured it out. We know it's not happiness. We know it has to do with right and wrong, but even right and wrong can be tricky sometimes, right? I'm going to start next time with an example where you guys are going to be confused about what is the right thing to do. You saw already how tricky it is because instinct usually taking over, right? So it's very tricky already because of instinct. But even reason, sometimes it's hard to distinguish what is really right. Which voice of all the voices that are in my head should I follow? So we need more precision on what exactly is the criteria for right and wrong. We're going to talk about that, right? What is the criteria that reason uses to distinguish between right and wrong? That's what we're going to do next time. So good luck with Kant. You should be a little bit more enthusiastic, hopefully, about reading him. He's not bad once you get into it. I'm going to stop the recording.